Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a mediator and business valuation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we are discussing ESOP and employee-led buyouts, insights from a private equity perspective with Michael Koeppel. In his 30 years of experience, Mr. Koeppel has been exposed to a host of industries, but his primary focus is on technology, manufacturing, and service organizations. In 2001, he founded eCapital Financing, which specializes in assisting startups and challenged entities to obtain financing. Today, the firm works with a host of companies in both the Los Angeles and Western New York regions. While eCapital Financing currently focuses on investing in startup companies and projects, Lakelet Advisory Group LLC was funded and founded in 2012 to focus on challenged organizations in turnaround situations. Now, that's a ton of information, but welcome, Michael. We are so happy to have you here.
I think the changes with regards to exit strategy have been significant over the last 10 years, and probably even more so as a result of the pandemic. Private equity firms were definitely the route to go for the vast majority of companies. We're talking about anything over $5 million to $50 million. That was a sweet spot for them. But we're seeing a lot of changes in there right now. And people are trying to, companies, owners are trying to take care of the next generation outside the family. And I think we'll see more and more outside the family. You know, the adage is very true. The next generation always doesn't do as well as the first generation. Actually, 70% of the time, they do significantly less. And the loyalty of the employees today, that managers and owners want to take care of them. And it's easier to do a structured exit plan with those people in place, because any organization, the true value of the organization are the people. So if you can do a deal in which the people not only stay on and have significant roles in management, but end up being the owners of that, that is a great motivating force to make sure the company can go to the next level several generations from the point where they're at now. There are some challenges. You see other areas. As the private equity has diminished significantly over the last 5 years, I think we're seeing some big advantage of strategic buyers. Not necessarily private equity companies. Well-established companies are buying up their competition and the small players to get that growth. Instead of doing the growth organically, they're willing to go out there and buy these companies. They'll buy these companies at a premium. One advantage a strategic partner has is strategic partners can pay more. Their risk is less. They know the industry, they know the product, they know the players. They already have a market, and that's usually the company they're acquiring is a strategic fit. It's a piece of the puzzle that they can utilize to go to the next level. But that presents a host of problems with regards to some of the ESOP players. A strategic buyer will definitely pay a premium, where an ESOP does not pay such a premium. And actually, an ESOP is very limited in the premium it can pay. To go through an ESOP route, which one would have to do is to have a business valuation. Of course, all these steps, no matter what the exit strategy is, a good succession planner will insist on getting a business valuation as a benchmark where they're at now. And then an ESOP would need another business valuation just before they convert over to an ESOP by a trustee. Ironically, it should not be the same valuating firm that does both. Actually, a trustee would be remiss if he let the same ESOP firm or the same consulting firm do the business valuation at the beginning of the succession plan. At the end, they have totally different objectives, those business valuations. And that raises a very interesting point. The business valuations themselves are seen through different lenses. If you're going to be a buyer versus seller, it's a totally different objective. We all know that the fair market value of an asset or a company is what independent buyers and sellers take a look at. It's two sides of a coin. So often when we do business valuations, we're just looking at one side of the coin, the company. Well, realistically, what's the other side of the coin? Are you planning on going to an ESOP? If you're going to go to an ESOP, it's going to be very much more conservative. Let me say that. If you're going to a private equity firm, is it a strategic buyer? What are you going to do? And another thing out there is, how long are you willing to let this sit on the market? That is one beauty of doing it with employees, whether it be an ESOP or non-ESOP. And we can talk about the differences in a few minutes, but you at least have a market and you know you have somebody out there. So many deals today, you have to shop around, go through the infamous pitch book process, the business valuation process, hoping to find a buyer. And then that process, anyone who says it takes less than 6 months is a blessing. They must have some secret sauce. But it takes about 6 months on average to find the right business partner who wants to go through the deal and it can do some preliminary due diligence on the process. And that definitely impacts the valuation of it. So when you do the business valuation, you don't want to say, well, the value is going to be contingent upon who's going to buy it, but you have to take that into consideration, seriously into consideration. And it is not unusual to see several business valuations saying, look, if we're going to take the ESOP route, the company is worth approximately this. If you're not doing the ESOP route, you may be able to add the average premium. The average premium is about 12% more for a non-ESOP versus ESOP. That sounds a little bit misleading and deceiving, and that's what scares a lot of people who do not fully understand ESOPs. The cost of an ESOP in the United States today is significant. There is no doubt about that. You have to deal with the bureaucratic of the Internal Revenue Service, the Department of Labor. You have to have a trustee. You have to have multiple audits. You have to have multiple CPAs involved and 2 different valuation firms involved. You add that all up, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to perform an ESOP. But the secret of an ESOP and the benefit, if someone takes a look at it, their tax savings over the next 2 years are significant. You're not only paying capital gains tax versus ordinary, you get to defer, the seller can defer if it's a C corporation, he or she can defer all that capital gains almost ad infinitum. If it's done right in the investment, the proceeds from the ESOP are properly invested, they will not be paying any taxes on that if it's so structured. The seller, the buyer gets a significant benefit of it. Many of the costs of the ESOP, as well as the loan itself, paying for the ESOP, is tax deductible. And they do not have to pay taxes until the money is distributed to them in a similar structure as a 401k. So when one considers doing an ESOP, they have to take a look at the big picture. Because if someone says, I'm worried about the cost. Yeah, the outgoing cost is significant. There's no doubt about that. It's much more than a normal strategic transaction. But the other side of the coin is, take a look at what your tax savings is going to be over the next 2-3 years, and it's significantly. On average in the United States, you can save 20% of the difference between an ESOP and non-ESOP just on the taxes over the first 24 months. So that can be significant.